Hello there, this is Jan Chappell.
Right, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. You're quite sure about volunteering to stay?
We must help these people.
Must we? Personally, I don't care if the whole planet turns into a mushroom. I shall stay because I don't like an unsolved mystery.
You don't think Dortmund and his life rocket are the answer?
No.
Why not?
There's something else that has to happen before it all begins to come together.
A damaged ship, a precious isotope, and a killer in the shadows. Today we're flying into Mission Destiny as Blake Seven does Agatha Christie and Avon does Hercule Poirot. Hi, I'm Philip.
And I'm Dwayne.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Todd.
So, we're going to explore today Mission to Destiny, an exciting story, but let's start off with a few facts first. Mission to Destiny by Terry Nation. Producer, Dave Maloney. Director, Pennant Roberts. This is the third story he's directed now after Spacefall and Time Squad. Script editor, Chris Boucher. Designer is Martin Collins, also his third story after The Way Back and The Web. Costume designs by Barbara Lane. Music by Dudley Simpson. This was first screened in the UK on Monday, the 13th of February 1978 at 7:15. It was first screened in Australia on Friday, the 12th of May 1979 at 8:20. Commissioned in November 1976. Filming was at Ealing Studio on the 3rd and the 5th of Jan in 1978, and the studio recording was the 23rd and the 24th of January 1978 at TC6. Note, Seek, Locate, Destroy and Jewel were actually filmed back to back, so Mission to Destiny will slot in between those two episodes. The audience for this episode was 9.6 million, which is down about 1.3 million from the previous week, but still very respectable. The appreciation score was 67, the chart position 46. As a fun fact, Terry Nation named this as his favourite episode for Season A. So, it's time to put your cards on the table. Was Agatha Christie-style murder mystery a mysterious affair or an endless night? So in a few words, what did people think of this?
I really enjoyed this more than I expected I would on the rewatch. I rewatched it today. And it's a story that I've often missed, an episode I've often missed, because of the omnibus editions. I had the VHSs and it went straight from Seek, Locate, Destroy to Jewel. I think the VHS was called Jewel, wasn't it? And so Mission to Destiny was completely cut out. So I'm not as familiar with that as the surrounding stories. But this, I really enjoyed watching this, and there's quite a few different aspects that I enjoyed to it, which I'll get into later.
I loved it. I love Agatha Christie. I like a good murder mystery. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Standard -2. 30 minutes in, I willed this episode to end.
Well, I'm so glad you're here. This to me has always been what I thought was one of the weakest in the season, and I suspect it's still probably the second weakest, maybe the third weakest. But that being said, I actually enjoyed it far more than I expected, and watching it, there's a lot of good things to enjoy. There's a few daft things, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but there's more good than I expected. Elephants can remember, so does anyone remember the first time they watched this? I think Dwayne already mentioned the first time you would have seen this was on VHS.
I'm not 100% sure. It may. I honestly can't remember when the first time it would have been. Probably VHS, yes, through the 90s sometime. If not, it would have been when the DVDs came out.
No, I can't remember. I think it was when the DVDs came out was the first time I ever saw it. When I was rewatching it, yes, I remembered certain performances. I remembered the two females over everybody else. but I suspect that's when I first saw it, was on that DVD release.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the first time I saw it was on the VHS. Although I saw a lot of the first season when it was repeated the second time in Australia. I know I missed the way back. I know that I know the first one I saw was the second episode of Spacefall and Six Alpha, but I think I missed a few along the way. And this was one I missed. So the first time I saw this was on the VHS release. And so you know what, this still feels a bit fresh and new to me, which is interesting because the others I watched so many times repeatedly. And Chris, the first time you watched it, well, actually, let's go find out the first time you watched this and what you thought. So let's go back in time. Well, Chris, welcome back. You're about to embark on a mission to destiny.
I
What are you
am.
expecting?
Again, I have no idea. I have not read the synopsis, so it could literally be about anything or anyone. I'm assuming that the Federation will be in this one more a bit, or I hope so, because like you said last episode, we haven't seen much of them, so I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to see a bit more of Gan. Is that his name? Yeah,
Yep.
Gan. Because so far now out of the whole characters, he's probably the one I know the least about so far. But I quite like him. He seems like he's going to be quite a nice character and quite loyal. So I'd like to know more about him now.
Okay. So we'll see what you think. Go and watch it. We'll talk after you've watched it. Mission to Destiny.
Great. Talk to you then.
Okay, Chris, you've just finished Mission to Destiny. What did
I
you
have.
think?
I liked it. I did like the episode. I wasn't expecting a murder mystery, so I love a murder mystery. I thought it was actually pretty easy to guess who the murderer was. There were quite a
Saw
few
the
clues.
clue?
Yeah, there were. I did see. I spotted a fair few clues on who it was, and I guessed who it was.
Did you see the name written in blood, or did you just see numbers?
No, I just saw numbers. I did just see
Right.
numbers. Yeah. I didn't really. Yeah, I knew that had to have something important. Yeah, I only saw numbers. Did you see the word did you see her name?
Okay, so it was a long, long time ago when I first seen this,
Yep.
and so I don't remember, but I suspect I didn't. I think
Right.
I think
Yeah.
the way they talked about numbers all the time, I was looking at numbers because they
Yeah.
were saying
Yep.
codes. So I didn't. Yeah, I mean, as soon as they started with the first letter, I went, "Oh, of course."
Yes.
But yeah, I don't think the first time I see it every time. I mean, now it's so blatantly obvious staring at you, but you know the
Yeah.
answer.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I didn't know the answer. Like I hadn't looked it up or anything like that, but I was just watching it. And I mean, a lot of murder mysteries tend to be the same, actually. You can pick it up the same way. So I just guessed it.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say it wasn't particularly in depth, but there's enough stuff there, and I mean they played it well. That all the characters had things to hide, and
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
had you realized that the isotopes weren't with the Liberator crew?
I think it must have been. It must not have been there, especially when they had the camera directly on and it fell off the table. I went, oh, okay, there's something. When they open it, it's probably going to be missing. So yeah, I did figure that it was probably still on the ship. Yeah, it was a bit the way it was filmed. I thought was a bit strange because it looked to me like it was all on set, but then it looked to me some of it was on film and some of it was on video. I think, or whatever. Did, did you notice that at all, or am I imagining that?
Yes. Okay, well, no, some would definitely have been on film because of how allocations for filming worked at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, Avon and Kelly ended up playing the main roles. So did you enjoy in terms of them being the leads?
I did actually, yeah. I'm actually liking Kelly a lot more. I've warmed up to her a lot now. I like her a lot. I love her boots as well. I love how she's doing it all in knee high boots. I love it.
And the rest of the
Yeah.
characters, anything standing out?
I really like Jenna a lot too. I think she's a really good actress, and when she's on the screen, I'm actually quite captivated by her. So I'm looking forward to more episodes with her in it as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
okay,
it
that's
was a fun episode. It didn't really add much to the Federation story. I guess it was sort of like a sidestep, kind of a side story, another different kind of episode. We haven't had a murder mystery yet, so yeah.
no.
So it'll be interesting to see
Yeah,
what the
so
next episode is.
it's once again trying to show that Blake Seven can actually do all kinds of very different things, and it's
Yeah,
exciting
it
to do
really
that.
does. Yeah.
Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
listen, thanks for your feedback, and we'll talk next time over Jewel. So what do people think in terms of having a murder mystery as part of Blake 7?
It's very different. Like, it's not their normal. So I did find that interesting. But in terms of murder mysteries, things go like you have all the different characters set up and all the different costumes. And I don't know. I just kind of, what were the stakes like for me? Like, I just didn't feel it. I mean, I don't usually like a lot of murder mystery type things generally when they're done in space.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, Blake 7 will do another one later in season D, but I think they only do two sort of murder mysteries along the way. So this is the first of two. And of course, Blake 7 doesn't do that many sidestep episodes. This is the second one so far this season. The first one was The Web. But I think there's 10 all up in the whole four seasons where it's not about the Federation or fighting for justice. So it is unusual, and Terry Nation is still obviously exploring how to do stuff. And actually, I think he's actually quite bold because we're Blake's, we're also big Doctor Who fans, and the TARDIS can land anywhere, anytime, any sort of adventure, and changes tone every week. With Blake 7, it sort of feels like it would be stuck doing the same thing. And we kind of saw that last time, dealing with Seek, Locate, Destroy, that looked like it was going to be the pattern. So it's exciting that Terry Nation is trying other things. Murder mysteries, you like them, don't you, Chris? What did you think about this
I
one?
do.
As a murder mystery?
Yeah, look, I think it was pretty. Look, it was pretty standard setup. You had the setup at the start. You couldn't tell really what this episode was about from the title, but as soon as it started, you kind of knew it was a murder mystery. I think. Well, I did anyway. Could tell by the setting up of the murder victim, and then even just the music.
Come on in. Could do with some company. Got sleepy all of a sudden. Just finished marking up this.
It was atmospheric and sort of suspenseful. So I'm very fond of Agatha Christie movies. I like murder mysteries wherever they're set. So I enjoyed it.
I'm not an avid follower of murder mysteries or Agatha Christie in general, so I'm not sure how it stands up next to an Agatha Christie style story. It seemed okay to me. It's not the most complex of plots, but there was much more to it than that for me. The big standouts for me were, well, the first scene we got some really interesting Dudley Simpson music, which I loved. I think this episode is a full-on showcase of Dudley Simpson and his music and all the different styles that he did throughout Doctor Who over the years, so I love it for that. I also love that Avon sort of comes more to the forefront, and you get to see a side of Avon that will become more prominent in the future, but he's still sort of finding his feet at this stage, but he's becoming more the Avon that we come to love in the future. In this one, those two things are the really big things that stood out to me. But murder mystery, yeah, it wasn't that complex, I don't think.
I agree with you, Dwayne. I really liked when sort of Blake departed, suddenly Avon stepped up.
Yeah.
And some of his one-liners, like,
Remember that Avon and I will be staying. We will regard ourselves as hostages against Blake's return.
Well, thank you, Callie. What a clever idea.
Blake will return.
You can bet your life on it. In fact, you've just bet both our lives on it.
and stuff like that, I thought were delicious. There's stuff in here that I really did like. I just felt that the story sort of ran out of steam at that 30-minute mark.
Yeah, in terms of Agatha Christie tropes, I was trying to see how they matched up. So it's an isolated setting, so it's not quite a country farmhouse covered in snow, but it's in space, you can't get away. Isolated setting in a broken spaceship, so no one can leave. It's a locked room murder mystery because you've got the person killed in a locked room. It's got a long list of suspects with all their own hidden secrets and strange ways of behaving. And in some ways, they're dressed like Cluedo characters. It was Mr. Red in the cockpit with the spanner. It's a search. They do a search for the strange in the midst. There must be someone else here because it can't possibly be one of us. There's dozens of red herrings, so just these clues designed to lead the audience to the wrong conclusion. They're not lies or false. A red herring is true, but it wants you to think the wrong thing. Denouement at the end. where Avon, puts on his conclusion hat and gathers all the people together, and then does something really stupid, which is turn his back to the murderer. But we'll get to that, no doubt, along the way.
I love how they're all color coded with their big flappy collars. Like, I do love the costume.
Oh, it's one of my favorite aspects of this story. Those collars on Destiny are so cool. I love their outfits. In fact, the Liberator Crew's outfits are all so colorful as well. I recently bought a new television, so I'm not sure if I'm seeing everything in more color than I'm used to with my old crappy television. But I was just so loving the vividness of this, all the costumes, and yes, I want those collars.
Yeah, I mean, the costumes were quite drab and plain without the collars, but the collars just makes it. It's also thinking, wow, just so over the top. He's with an appointment with death with the cold open.
I see what you did there.
I'm seeing how many Agatha Christie titles I
Agatha
can drop
Christie
along the way.
reference. Yeah.
See if you can count them up and work out how many I've done. I've done lots so far. So it begins with an appointment with death. What do people think about the cold open in terms of how it's been filmed and shot? And does anyone recognize the set?
I haven't recognized the set, but my favorite aspect of that opening shot, as I've already mentioned, is Dudley Simpson's music. I just love it's cello, isn't it? That's
It is cello.
that
Yes,
he's
it was,
playing
yeah.
there. And I just absolutely love that part of it. So that has affected me more than anything else in that scene. But yeah, tell me what's the set? I don't know where it's from.
Isn't it a point of view shot or something?
It is all done POV. So yes, so that's a handheld camera point of view shot through the ship. Absolutely, because that way you can't show the murderer, so therefore you look through the murderer's eyes, which once again is a very common trope for murder mysteries. Does anyone recognize the corridors of the set? It's the London, just repainted.
Oh, right.
Of course, they haven't got much budget. The London, the computer room are both the London, just repainted and reorganized. And then all the racks that are being used when Callie goes to discover the other body, they're all the racks from last week's Seek, Locate, Destroy. They're doing everything they can to just keep the budget down as low as possible.
I mean, it's just a filler episode, really. To be honest, it's a filler episode for the season.
They mean, Terry Nation thinks this is his best story of the season.
Still a filler.
I think cutaway is better than filler. But it's just like the web. The web was a cutaway as well from the overall arc, just like this is. So I think filler might be a bit. I think it's better than filler.
I really enjoyed it. I noticed it as well, especially when Callie was walking around with the torch, etc. They had little dings there and everything, and it was just very effective. I noticed it throughout the whole episode as well.
Well, it's playing now and it sounds great.
The cello, some aspects of the cello was taking me right back to Spearhead from Space, where he really featured the that one too with some of the spooky scenes. So I enjoyed that aspect of it too.
But he does also use clarinets later on. He uses trumpets, he uses percussion. So he's quite versatile with his music. And of course, he won't be playing in the next episode at all with Douglas Camfield, but we'll talk about that next time. And the reason may not be what you think it is, actually. So anyhow, a murder is next announced. And so after the cold open, we move into the show proper. And we're now on board the Liberator.
Well, that's when they've just discovered the ship. They've just come across it going around in a circle, and they decide that there must be something wrong. So they go to investigate.
Do people like the model, the Ortega? It depends who watched the original, who watched the new version.
I watched both. And I did quite like the new version. It was pretty impressive. Yeah.
Are they very different?
No, very similar. In fact, I think they may even use the same model for the Ortega. Does anyone recognize the Ortega? Because it's funny how they've made it. Ian Scones designed the ship, but Martin Bowers is the person who actually made it. If you know Space 1999, the framework is an eagle.
Oh.
And so the nose is an eagle and the metalwork is an eagle. And then he's taken 8 Fabergé boxes and he's used Fabergé boxes to make the body up and then spray painted it all white.
Made it a bit fatter.
Yeah. So if you actually look at it, you can see the eagle there kind of, and then you can see the Fabergé boxes have made the body of it up. So once again, cheap budget. But the shots they have of it, and that opening shot of it flying through space is actually really impressive, I think.
I can tell you I only watched the special edition or the new special effects. So I'm really loving them still. Yeah, I can't get enough of them.
Yeah, no, there's some good shots, but I still think the original still holds up to lots of things. Did people notice in terms of the going backwards and forwards between studio and video
Yeah,
and film?
I did
I did.
notice that actually, because they were internal scenes, and I'm thinking that looks a bit filmy. And then they'd go back to video and then film again. So, what's the story behind that?
So a BBC drama, a 50-minute BBC drama was allocated 2 days in studio and 3 days filming. And that was every 50-minute show got that no matter what, whether that's what they needed or not. And so
Okay.
with Blake's, there wasn't with 50 minutes, 2 studio days isn't enough to film all they needed on in the studio. And so they needed to build their sets in Ealing in the film studios and run all this. So they did all those sets 2 weeks earlier. Then they go to rehearsals and then they do the 2 days in film studios. And so because of that, you get the change of quality between the film and the video, which when they're going from, you notice when they're going from location to studio normally anyway,
Hmm.
but it's a bit more stark when you're actually kind of in studio for both of them, but one's film and
Yes.
one's video. Why they can't just allocate them a third or fourth day in studio, but that's just not how the BBC did things. And because the BBC always did the things the same way, that's your allocation. You have to use it the way they give it to you. Bad luck. And I know Doctor Who suffered from the same regularly as well because they were under similar sort of conditions.
What does everyone prefer? I know. I mean, I know film is a little bit grainy, but I just think it's got a certain style about it that you just don't get on video.
I think it's bizarre because, like, if I refer to Doctor Who, like you go to something like Spearhead from Space, which is film, but you go for something like the Santaran Experiment, which is all
Video
on video but outside
broadcasting.
shot. So and one feels quite distant and the other film feels quite close up. But I like both of them. Like, I mean, I guess I'm just used to the whole Doctor Who thing, really, of what's outside and what's inside, and you just sort of it becomes ingrained. So you just kind of know what's what and you just accept it. I think it's probably more bizarre for other people who aren't Doctor Who fans like us.
Mm. I think usually Doctor Who, in terms of when they use the studio, it's usually the big sets like the alien planets on Planet of Evil, or it's where they're going to have the big fight scenes or water or fire, because all those things have to be done in studio. But in this case, there's not actually a lot of action in this whole episode. And so people were just wandering down a film corridor feels like a bit of a waste of film.
Corridors, isn't it?
Yes.
That are on film. Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, I was going to say Todd's right. You kind of get used to it being in Doctor Who, but even this episode, it was quite jarring because it's almost like they're in one room, they're in film, they open the door, go into a hallway, and then suddenly they're on video. So that was a bit jarring, but I like both as well. There's something about film I think gives it I don't know, some kind of quality that I just really like.
Mm. I think the other thing that stands out too is that you can tell they've not rehearsed on the film scenes. And so a lot of the characterization is a bit more over the top and a bit overly dramatic.
I didn't kill him. I didn't kill him. I didn't kill him!
And by the time they've rehearsed it for a week and gone into studio, performances have changed. And so you look at, is it Mondrian in The Red? His performance on film compared to what he is very different. Because they haven't had the rehearsal time. They've just gone into the studio and these are your lines. And so as much as possible, Pennant Roberts has tried to do scenes that doesn't require much dialogue and much rehearsal, which is why it's lots of Callie just walking down corridors or people screaming in corridors or just to keep as much little plot down as possible.
I think it's a Pennant Roberts serial because he's not overly good on the old action, is he? So this is probably perfect for him to have all this talky stuff. That works really well, I think.
Yeah, I think this is really suits him because it's just a bunch of people and it's a large cast, lots of actors talking in a room. So he actually handles that quite well. And his coverage actually isn't too bad. I mean, there's a few issues like Avon turning his back on the murderer at the end. You sort of go, I'm not sure that was great filming. But generally speaking, can I say because it's such a large cast, there's a couple of lackluster performances. Actually, did people pick up anything with the characters' names of the crew?
Yes, Dortmund in particular was one.
Yeah, so Dortmund, where's Terry used that before?
Well, Dalek Invasion of Earth, obviously.
Yep.
Dortmund.
What about Kendall?
Oh, I have heard that one before. Yes,
Well, I think it's a derivative of Kemble, which is the
Right.
Dalek master plan. So yeah,
Yeah.
Kendall. Mandrian is probably based on the artist Pierre Mondrian. Did a lot of very famous art. I think Sondheim is probably the musical composer Sondheim, which
Yeah.
Stephen Sondheim, who did Into the Woods and all those great musicals. Which
I know you're a fan, Philip. So
I'm a
when I
fan.
heard that name, I thought of you. I thought,
And Terry,
it's not quite Sondheim, but so close.
and Terry
Yeah.
Nation, Terry Nation also a fan. And then just like the Liberator crew, they're all using surnames except for one person, Sarah. But once
Oh, yeah.
again, she's
No, it was Sarah. It was
Sarah.
Sarah. It was
Okay,
Sarah.
but
My
she's
sister, Sarah.
Tara Kingdom.
she's a reuse. Yes, Sarah Kingdom from
Yeah.
Master Plan. So once again, he likes using those sort of things.
But I'm going to say this about the performances. I know you think a few are lackluster. Nobody's utterly terrible.
No.
True.
And sometimes you get that in referring to Doctor Who sort of space things. You'll get one member of the cast who is pretty crappy. But I actually thought they were all fairly decent, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Even David Jackson found his true calling as a drinks waiter.
I'm not talking about
We'll talk about David Jackson later, but 12 lines. I counted his lines. He gets 12 lines in the whole show. But we'll get to him later. Just in terms of names too, just the Ortega, which is the name of the spaceship, probably named after Jose Ortega Gasset, who was a 20th century philosopher who wrote the book The Revolt of the Masses. And in that he argues that ordinary people are incapable of self-government. And soon the crew were incapable of self-looking after themselves. They need to bring people inside to govern them because they can't organize themselves. So I think Terry Nation may have stolen the name of the ship from him. And of course, the other thing about the Ortega crew is they kind of mirror the Liberator crew. You've got two women, and then you've got a bunch of men that includes a leader, a joker, short man, log joker, a serious and intelligent man, and a secret murderer. Are all part of the crew. So there's a few interesting parallels with the Liberator crew and the Ortega crew. But talking about the crew and the guest cast, it might be a good time to turn to Who's on Who.
All right. So, gentlemen, place your bets. Give me the number of guest artists. We're not talking about the regulars this time. All guest artists. How many do you think you picked up that were in this particular episode? Todd, you're calling 4.
Yep, 4.
I only 2. I only saw 2.
I'm going to go 5.
Oh, we have a winner. We have a
5?
winner. It is 5 this time. And I was looking at the female cast, particularly that Stern. I can't remember her name, sorry, but I thought, man, I've never noticed her in Doctor Who, but she would have been great in Doctor Who, I thought. But sadly, she's never been in it. Okay, so the obvious ones, we have Barry Jackson, of course, who remembers the Doctor Who stories that he appeared in.
Oh, stories.
3. There were 3.
Oh, he's Drax.
Drax in the Armageddon Factor.
Armageddon Factor.
Very close to this.
Is he in the Crusades?
You're close.
Oh,
Close,
the
but
Romans.
no.
The Romans.
The Romans, yes. He was in the Romans. He was the assassin of the first Doctor. And there was one other in that particular era too that he was in. It is a missing episode.
Ooh.
He was in Mission to the Unknown. He played Jeff Garvey. In
Oh, the guy, guys.
Right.
He turns into a Varga plant.
Yeah.
I was going to say Dalek's Master Plan Part 1, but that's null and void.
Close enough. Dalek's Master Plan Part Half. So the second one we've got is Nigel Humphreys, who played Sondheim. Does anyone know where he was from? He was a very familiar face if you just got your box set.
Yeah, we just talked about him in Wars of the Deep.
Warriors of the Deep. Yes, that's the only Doctor Who's been in.
Yes, I can. Yes, I got it. Yep.
And he's the only one. I think he's the only one that survives in that show, isn't he? Everyone else dies except for him.
I don't know if he survives. It's not. I thought everyone died in Warriors of the Deep.
I think everyone dies. I don't think anyone survives in that one.
Okay.
No.
Oh, I thought people did, but anyway.
His character.
Need to watch it again.
Bulick in Warriors of the Deep, and having just watched that today, the new special edition on the Blu-ray, it's fantastic.
He plays the character exactly the same, doesn't he?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. He hasn't got that much range. All right. The third one that you will recognize probably from Doctor Who is Carl Forgione,
who was in Sylvester McCoy's story, isn't it?
Correct.
Ghostlight,
playing Nimrod. He played Nimrod there, but he was in one other Doctor Who story as well. He played a character called Land in Planet of the Spiders. He was one of the guys around the circle.
Oh,
Marty Badmian.
okay.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, yes, I can picture him now.
Yep.
Yep.
And of course, we had John Leeser, who was there in a acting role, who of course played K9. But what were his other roles? He had three other roles apart from K9 in Doctor Who. Three others.
Power of
Power of
Kroll.
Kroll.
Dugeen, yes. Power of Kroll.
Oh, he's a voice artist, isn't he?
The two others are voices. I'll give you that clue.
He's in Remembers the Daleks.
Correct. He plays the battle computer with the girl spins around in. And
Okay.
there's
He's
one
not,
other voice.
he's
that
not
he
the
does.
prawn, is he?
Yes, he is.
Oh, is
He's the
he?
nucleus
Lucas
of
of the Swarm.
in the Invisible Enemy.
That's
Can I-
right. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah.
Can I just say he looks so young here? He looks
Yeah.
so young.
Yeah. He always looks quite youthful anyway, but
yeah.
particularly young there.
But even like he does a Doctor Who like on screen like a year later, but he just looks really young here. So there you go.
He does a
for
Blake
sure.
7 a year later too. He's back next season.
Oh,
Very
okay.
good. We'll go through this all again. All right. Now, there was one more. I don't know, Philip, you got 5. Who was the 5th one?
Stuart Fell, who falls.
Who fell? Yes, he actually fell.
Oh, yes.
The body,
It was the
Dortmund.
dead body that fell out of the cupboard. Absolutely. If you blink and you miss him, and I think even if you don't blink, you still might miss him. But yes, Stuart Fell played Dortmund.
And this is the
that
first
was-
of many appearances in Blake 7.
Yeah. So there we go. Five actors in this episode who have previously appeared in, or since appeared in Doctor Who.
So we've discussed the crew, we've discussed a lot of the things in terms of what's happening on the Ortega, but there's also an ordeal by the Innocents. That's the crew of the Liberator who are flying away. The Liberator hasn't
I
got
see
much
what
to
you
do.
did there.
Good. The B plot hasn't got a lot happening to it. But to people to say, what do you think in terms of what's going on with that B plot?
Well, I thought it was a good idea. It was good to start with. But the fact that they had this big dilemma of getting through this asteroid field and storm, and then all of a sudden realizing that they didn't have the neutrotope that they were trying to take to Destiny, and then all of a sudden turning around and going back through that storm, I didn't think that worked very well. I thought that was a bit of a hole in the plot for this one.
They've already traveled for a long time because all
Yeah.
their action's been unpacking. So maybe a day or two at least,
Yep.
one would think.
Yep.
So you've got the fact you've got this huge amount of time that they've been already traveling for, standard by 6, which isn't slow. I mean, I think the most the Liberator does is standard by 9, and so it's 2/3 maximum speed. So even if they went back standard by 9, they're still going to struggle. So one thing is just in terms of time and distance. And one of the good things about Blake 7 is travel takes time. One of the things I actually appreciate about the show is that space travel always takes time.
Well, their power was being drained, and they had to choose between the force wall and the speed. I think
That's right.
wasn't it?
So they've got no
Yeah.
power.
Yeah.
And so they've managed to get through successfully. Yay, they're safe. But they have no power. So they're going to have to recharge before they can turn around and go back. So not only do you have to do the extra time of travel, you've also got to have time to recharge, of which they've got nothing. And then if they actually get through again, they've got no power again when they get through. And they're about to go into a space battle. So it's just a few major issues with that whole thing, I think. I think it's Terry's fault. And we've already discussed the fact that Terry and time have issues. Like we already with Cygnus Alpha, like in terms of they took over the ship, the Liberator, and the next day, even though they were 4 months into an 8-month journey when they got the Liberator, and yet the next day they seem to be appearing on Cygnus Alpha to get the rest of the crew, and they're still exploring the ship like they've just been on board when they should have been there for 4 months. So Terry doesn't think about time at all when he writes the scripts.
I think it's interesting. Like Chris Boucher is supposed to be script editor or is script editor, and like this is something that he just lets through. I mean, I suspect Terry probably likes this script the best because it was probably the one he wrote the most of, and Chris wasn't doing work on other things, perhaps.
Yeah. I mean, Michael E. Bryan talks about the fact that towards the end of the season, they were getting 1-page summaries from Terry, and that was the story for the week. And so Chris was writing like crazy, especially towards the end. At this stage, it's still probably not too bad, But it's interesting that they filmed this after they'd filmed. I haven't been able to work out why they filmed Seek, Locate, Destroy and Jewel back to back. It may be because of just the availability of Stephen Greif, because that meant he was together in a bigger block, and left longer before they brought Jacqueline Pierce back. I wonder whether it's just the fact that the script wasn't ready, and they needed more time to be working on this script, and those scripts were ready. I don't know, but it is interesting that they had to do them out of order.
But I think any good whodunit, there's always some plot hole
Yeah.
that exists that you don't necessarily realize in the moment. It's only after the fact.
Yeah, I mean the other big plot hole in some ways was the whole isotope thing, in terms of didn't mention the fact that it was missing. Like, they're exploring the ship. There's people murdered. There's they don't realize Dortmund's not in the room when they're looking around. It's only later when the plot is convenient they go, oh, we're missing someone. And with the isotope, it takes them 10 minutes before they go, hang on a second.
And wasn't it when Kendall first showed Blake the neutrotope, he had a special key that he put in, and there was a code that had to go on the key.
Yep.
And then later on in the story, he says to the woman, he says, "Oh, go and grab the neutrotope for me, would you?"
Yeah.
Just like
It sounds like he's just left it out.
Yeah.
He was this precious thing. Maybe it's been taken, and he just leaves it on the desk and goes, because she just goes and gets it off the desk.
Mm.
So why does he put it back in the special locking drawer? So there's a few security issues there that they've worked through as well. Any other comments in terms of what's the scenes of the Liberator? They're all very short. I mean, this really is a story for Avon and Callie, which I actually think is a good thing. Any other comments about what's happening on the Liberator? It's, as I said, it's great. Gang can serve drinks now.
Oh, I've already mentioned that. Yeah, I was fascinated with the way he was serving drinks, the way he passed Blake's across the table and then walked around and gave Jenna hers. It was interesting the way they did that. Anyway, minor point, not important at all.
Yes, everybody is done up for the day, aren't they? For their drinks, they found the costume wardrobe,
Put the cards on the table. Let's work out what was going on with Callie and Avon. Why do you think those two work well together?
I think she gives him his space to do his one-liners, and she can just be very empathetic and get on with things. She doesn't really react like others do to it. Doesn't she use her telepathy in this or say something to him?
Yep.
Well, thank you, Callie. What a clever idea.
Blake will return.
You can bet your life on it.
And that happens very rarely.
Well, we're saying that, but it's been quite a bit so far. She has used the telepathy 3 times out of 4 episodes. So I'm tracking these things, like how many people they kill. I'm tracking how many times telepathy is used. So she does it twice in this episode. Once when she's sort of asleep.
Callie, wake up!
Alone.
Yes, Callie!
What?
Which is an interesting choice of word. Why do you think she says alone?
I took it that she said, leave me alone. I thought that's what she was saying. Like, just leave me alone, let me sleep. That's what I thought she meant.
Okay. What do other people think?
It was odd, though. I thought it was odd that she just said alone. Yeah.
Oh, I just clocked that she used it. I didn't really think about the word that was said. Is she alone? What's alone? I don't know.
Yeah, it went over my head too.
Okay. No, I thought alone was interesting because I think in some ways, because remember, she's the alien. She's the Aronite amongst humans. And she's even ended up on another ship. So, and there's no one else with telepathy near her. So I actually think the alone is actually how she often feels. So super alone. And later on we'll look at other words she uses, because she uses telepathy more than I think people think she does. I didn't think she used it much, and I've been surprised so much.
I think they work well together because there's such a contrast between the characters. Callie's like is the kind of more virtuous one, the good one, and Avon is almost the devious one who you can never quite trust. And I think putting those two together in situations is really interesting.
I think it's interesting because I think Jenna and Blake work well in that dynamic, and these are the other two that really work well. And then you've got that other combination, Villa and Gan.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, I like Callie and Avon because they are so much opposites. So he's logic.
Exactly.
She's logic. So he's logic. She's intuitive. And then what you said in terms of she's empathetic, he's cold and heartless. And so I think there's all these real opposites. I think so. Where Blake and Jen, I think, are very similar. They've both got they've got a spirit to adventure and life and rescuing people and being heroes. Avon and Callie are total opposites. And of course, people who have often try and Sally Nivette, when she spoke to us, said that in her view and Gareth's view, the two of them did have a thing for each other, and so they often used to play that up, and that's why they used to touch a lot and carry on a lot. Whereas Cal and Avon, I think people also ship together because they're such opposites. And of course, later on in the show, we're going to see a few times when you can actually see, there could be something happening between them. So I don't know whether the ship name would be Calvon or Avley.
Calvon.
Calvon.
I think works better.
We'll see what happens in the future with those two. Terry Nation said to Paul Darrow that he'd written this episode for Avon because he really wanted Avon to be centre stage.
Well, he gets another good one-liner.
My people have a saying, a man who trusts can never be betrayed, only mistaken.
Life expectancy must be fairly short among your people.
I can't help but laugh.
Yes,
So good.
Yeah, he does get all the one-liners. It's interesting. There's a lot of TV shows where the stars of the show end up not being not being the famous ones. So Star Trek: The Next Generation, Data is the one that everyone loves rather than Picard or Riker. Voyager became the Doctor, became the character everyone loved rather than the others. So it's interesting. Often the show, there's people that you don't expect to rise to the top, and Avon is certainly the character who I don't think was supposed to, but certainly just rose. And this episode demonstrates the fact that if Blake were to go, I mean, I'm sure he won't. I mean, the show's named after him. But if Blake were ever to go, we know that Paul Darrow could certainly carry the lead as Avon. So the nemesis, the woman, Sarah. Once again, how many women have we had as baddies so far in 7 episodes?
We had Morag.
We had Morag.
Servalan.
We've got Sarah here. And one of the two...
From the web.
From the web.
Yep.
So 4 out of 7 episodes have actually had strong female baddies, which today doesn't mean much at all. But in terms of the 70s... Blake 7 is really cutting ground in terms of baddie females. And Doctor Who, I mean, you're hard-pressed to find any. There's the odd ones stick out. You might get one a season if you're lucky. Hilda, yay, from Robot or for the Stones of Blood. So there's a few bad women that stick out, but on the whole, you don't have many. Yes. When you have a bad woman in Doctor Who, she stands out. But we had 4 so far in 7 episodes. And we've still got more to come. So it's good what Terry Nation actually is doing in that way. What do people think about the denouement of Avon revealing who the person is?
I always enjoy those scenes. I like them in Agatha Christie's, especially with Poirot, and he reminded me of Poirot. And I think we got about 3 of those different scenes. There's 3 where he's got all the suspects gathered around in that little room where he's given his different opinions.
Then who did kill Mandarin?
The same person who killed Rafford and Dortmund. And I know who that is now.
You know?
Yes. I should have seen it right from the start, but my mind had conditioned itself to see the wrong thing.
So, we got 3 of them, so I really enjoyed all of them. And I thought he played it really well. He definitely played up for the camera and really played into it, I thought.
I thought those scenes are quite... The way everybody's placed, like it's so stagey, just so we can get all of our camera shots and all that sort of thing in. And but it's interesting too, I think, having the 2 women, one who's very stoic and one who's very emotional, and you kind of think... I'd forgotten who actually it was, and I thought, well, it's either one of the women. Like, which one is it going to be? And at the end, doesn't like she fight Avon and he punches?
Yeah, we'll get to that. That's something you probably wouldn't do today, but it's worth talking about in a second. So, in terms of Avon, who saw the name in the numbers?
Look at this. It's blood. He tried to write something.
54124. Whatever that might mean.
It could be anything. Call sign, transmission frequency, navigation index, anything.
But it is important. He must have been dying when he wrote it.
No,
Nope.
I didn't.
No.
No.
Okay, even seeing it again this time, people did not remember that. Or,
Oh,
no?
I knew it was her. I figured it was her, but I still don't.
How did you figure it was her?
100%.
You were just guessing it was her. How did you figure it was her?
Well, the reason I thought it was her because she was the first one that woke up after being knocked out. So the person who was doing the murdering was wearing the gas mask, would have been the last one to go out. I thought would probably have been the least one would be the first one to wake up. And then I thought her screaming when she saw the dead body was a bit over the top.
Okay, did anyone else suspect Sarah?
No.
Not through the numbers, no.
No, it's interesting that because of how Callie and Avon both read the numbers and talk about numbers, it does condition your mind to see the wrong thing. And so, yeah,
It's a classic misdirect,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the script.
So, at what point when Avon was writing out the numbers, did you remember or recall it was Sarah? How far do you have to get?
To get all the way.
Me too.
Well, that's good, guys.
But I think by that time I was just like, okay, just get to it,
Yeah, I do think that was very drawn out. That whole scene was very drawn out. And once again, Avon had worked out who it was. Rather than actually grabbing her and tying her up and then explaining to the others, he just lets her stand behind him while he's busy writing out numbers. He knows he's not armed. Can I say that's a weird thing that they give away all their guns and the crew all had guns. That was a pretty stupid thing. They should get their guns. You've got all these people wandering around with guns at the end. It's very Terry Nation. It's a bit like Keys of Marinus.
And the only reason they looked at it was because it fell off the table. It slid off the table, and we were meant to all go, "Oh, better check that it's all not broken.
Okay.
Let's look now." Yeah.
Yeah. She had already run off with that. Though, mind you, where she had that hidden, because she's got that. She runs out of the room, goes to the flight deck, and locks herself in, and she has the isotope with her. Then she also has a gun with her. Where did she have that huge gun and the isotope in her costume? Like, was it under the collars? I mean, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. They were there for something, weren't they?
Actually, that makes me think too. The other thing, just in terms of her plotting, does the order of murders then make sense? In terms of, was it explained well enough in terms of? So why did she kill the pilot?
That was an accident.
But Callie thinks that the death of the pilot, Rafford, was an accident.
What do you mean?
An accident?
A misfortune.
It certainly was for him.
He was meant to be unconscious, but because the vents in
He closed the
the
vents.
cockpit, so he did mention he was getting sleepy just when they walked in, but because the vents were closed, he didn't get the full dose and wasn't knocked out.
You think dragging Dortmund to an escape pod would have been harder than actually managing to place Dortmund on top of
a cupboard.
I mean, as much as the fall was great and the hand and made for some great music and a great reaction scene from Callie, I don't quite know how she actually managed to get him on top of that cupboard.
That's true, yeah.
If she could get him up there, surely she could actually manage to drag him to the
That's
bone.
right.
And her motive? Money, yeah.
Money.
Same motive of main motive of why people do anything. Do you think she was a believable villain?
I think no, myself, because I was really suspecting the other lady. I thought she was more along the lines of someone who would turn out to be bad, but I suppose that may have been predictable, and that's why she was acting that way. And I think she was a bit over the top at the end.
I got that red herring with the other lady. I had forgotten, as I said, who was the murderer, and I kept going, oh no, it's got to be her, not Sarah.
Let's talk about our main crew and what they got and didn't do, but we might start off with Michael Keating.
All right, I'm going across. Will you come with me, Evan? Callie? Villa?
You don't need me to come over.
No, I need you to work the teleport.
Right.
Because, Chris, I know you prepared some stuff about Michael Keating.
I have, yes. So we're going to celebrate the career of British sci-fi's most enduring character actor, Michael Keating. Born in 1947, Keating began acting in the mid-60s, building his craft through steady theatre and television work. Before Blake Seven came calling, he popped up across British TV, including a role in the Doctor Who story The Sunmakers. And he had later memorable guest spots in shows like Yes Minister, where he played Constable Ross, and Casualties, which reunited him with co-star Gareth Thomas. In 78 came the role that changed everything. As Villa, Keating became the only actor to appear in all 52 episodes of Blake Seven, grounding the series with humour, vulnerability, and a wonderful human sense of self-preservation. Fans didn't just enjoy Villa, they adopted him. Keating's connection to the universe didn't end with a TV series. He returned to the world of audio drama with Big Finish, reprising Villa across multiple Blake Seven ranges and taking on new roles in Doctor Who with stories like The Twilight Kingdom and The Year of the Pig. His voice work kept him a beloved presence in the fandom for decades. He also was introduced to a new audience when he played Reverend George Stevens in EastEnders, a calm, steady figure presiding over weddings, funerals, and the emotional storms of Albert Square.
Can I just say that the Twilight Kingdom is excellent. It's an Eighth Doctor story set in the Divergent universe. But The Year of the Pig is sensational. Also stars Maureen O'Brien. I think it was her first Big Finish.
It was.
A wonderful, wonderful story. A bizarre story, but great to listen to. And a very different character to Villa that he plays in that.
So let's just run through some of the crew of the Liberator, what they do. So we just talked Michael Keating. Villa, in terms of his role in this episode?
Nothing.
No.
he gets one funny line, I think, and he gets the final shot as well.
Okay, that's something.
Yeah. What about Blake?
Still got a paycheck.
Well, he's still got a fairly big role at the beginning, and then he sort of gets a little sidelined. I think it's good. He's been front and center for so many things that, it's good to let a few of the others sort of take the lead off the ship for a bit.
What do people think about his morality of just blowing up the spaceship at the end?
They're locked on.
What was that?
I rigged a charge on the entry hatch.
I did notice that, and it's kind of shocked me a little bit. They're rebels, aren't they? So but it's really got nothing to do with the Federation, does it? So when I think about it, it was pretty full on, wasn't it? What he did there.
Yeah, but the villain has to explode, right? It's happened. It's happened 2 other times so far.
I was their priest. I shall return to them a god!
Yeah, it's a whole ship of people, though, who we don't know that they were all bad. She may have just organised for this ship to come and pick her up. But she doesn't. They don't know they're about to be blown up by a bunch of terrorists. It's interesting that Travis views himself. I think I mentioned this last week. Travis views himself as of the hero, and Blake and crew as the terrorists. And they do things like this, and you sort of go, you know what? They kind of are terrorists, because it really is. There's just judge and jury. He doesn't know who they are. He doesn't really care who they are. He just blows them all up.
I guess he's justifying it in his own mind by thinking, well, they were going to buy something that was stolen from a planet that was about to die out.
I do think it's an interesting moral code. And I do think as we keep watching Blake, we need to keep looking at his moral code along the way.
Yeah.
Keep reminding us, Philip. Keep reminding us.
I keep reminding you. It's like I said, I mean, several times now he's blown up entire bases.
I get a feeling he'll get his one day.
He's killed thousands of people already, I think. Well, at least hundreds and hundreds of people he's killed, and a lot of them, I think, quite innocent. What about Jenna?
Not much again. She wasn't in it really that much at all.
No, she was having some water at one point on the bridge.
Yeah.
Beautiful costume. Beautiful costume.
This is
dressed up for the day.
It was around this point that Sally Yvette had a major complaint to David Maloney about what she was doing and what she was getting to do. And they actually will rewrite Project Avalon in a couple of weeks' time to make her the lead, because it was supposed to be Callie. We'll talk about that more at the time. But this is now the 7th episode. The only places Jenna has been in, goodness knows how much time this is, because once again, Gan and Villa talk about the fact they've been through several asteroid storms. So a lot has happened. They've been on the Liberator a long time. There's obviously lots of adventures we haven't seen because they do mention other adventures, they do mention other places, they talk about other asteroid storms they've been through. So a long time has passed, and all we've seen Jenna so far, she was locked up in a prison cell on Earth. She was in the London, she was on the Liberator.
Yeah, she hasn't been down anywhere.
She's not been to a single location. She's not left the ships yet. So no wonder Selling a bit by this stage, seven stories in, is saying, "I'm not happy, Jan."
I'd be disgruntled.
Yeah.
Not
And-
happy, Jan? Did she talk to Jan about that?
Yeah, and as we've mentioned, we think she's a fabulous actress, and the fourth episode, she was the lead in that episode. She ran that. Blake and crew, the Soren Major story, which always felt like to me like the Major story because of the way they cut the omnibus tape up, but nearly all the three-quarters of the adventure is set on the Liberator, and she's leading that. Her and Gan are leading that adventure, and she's fabulous. But she just rarely gets the opportunity to show. And this is another episode where she just doesn't get the opportunity to shine at all.
I was thinking about Time Squad. Didn't she teleport onto the Time Squad capsule in that
You're
episode?
right.
So she did go off the ship.
Yes.
She did onto another tiny little capsule. You're
She went
right.
off the ship for a few minutes, but
I mean, no doubt she's had other adventures. And in fact, in the Big Finish universe, she has had other adventures, and we'll be talking about some of those soon. But yeah, she's being a bit limited with what they've given her to do so far in the actual show. Avon and Callie, we've already talked about. Anyone else want to say anything more about them? Gan?
Was he even in it?
Of course he was. No, everyone would have gone thirsty if it wasn't for Gan.
Yeah, it's 12 lines, and nearly all those lines were feeding a line for someone else to tell him things.
Yeah.
So he didn't get any ownership lines at all.
I saw him writing on a notepad at one point.
Yeah, and handing out drinks. It's just so sad. What about Zen?
Yeah, not much. Just basic travel instructions and things like that. Nothing much going on with Zen this time.
But sometimes that's a good thing, just to get used to Zen,
Zen actually gets more lines than Gan.
Oh, really?
And in fact, he gets more humour.
How long before we're in teleport range?
That will depend on speed as yet unspecified.
Standard by 4?
16.140901 minutes.
Approximately speaking, of course.
Zen gets more funny lines and humorous lines than anyone else does. Now, let's turn to Terry tropes. What Terry Nation tropes do we see in this episode?
Well, the names we've already talked about. They were the big ones that stood out to me.
Yep.
Yeah, I would agree. Like sonar vapor. Things like that, honestly. Thanks, Terry.
He loves his space names and things, doesn't he? So the planet's going to fungus, turning to fungus, being attacked by fungus.
Oh, fungoids. Yeah.
Fungoids and that sort of chemical attack. I was wondering whether maybe Destiny was about to be attacked by the Daleks, because the Daleks always used to like to, launch plague onto planets before they actually attack them. So maybe there's a Dalek attack about to come.
Then it would be called Mission to Destiny of the Daleks.
Yes. The isotope. There's a lot of talk about a MacGuffin. Do people know what a MacGuffin is?
No.
Well, it's just like a bafflegab name for something, isn't it?
Yeah, a MacGuffin is an object that drives the characters, but we don't care about. So the isotope is something we don't care about. It doesn't matter to us. It's got no relevance to us. But for the characters, it's everything. It's going to make them money. It's going to make them rich. It's going to save their planet. And so the characters are all driven by something we don't care about. Terry Nation actually uses that sort of trope a lot. So, I mean, other thought of MacGuffins are things like the Ark of the Covenant in Raise the Lost Ark, or those silly stones in the Temple of Doom. It's like the briefcase in Reservoir Dogs, if you've seen it. So there's a briefcase that all the characters are killing each other for, and you never see what's inside it. Terry Nation loves them. So as I said, you've got the MacGuffin of this isotope. It doesn't mean anything. The characters care. You've got the keys in the Keys of Marinus. The keys themselves are irrelevant. They actually don't even do anything. They spend 6 episodes collecting keys, get back to the machine, and it's the Tyranium Core. We're about to see this in Dalek Master Plan, where 12 episodes are being driven by the Daleks trying to hunt down this Tyranium Core, but it's meaningless. It's just a plot device to make things happen. And so, yeah, I think Terry Nation loves his MacGuffins, and this one's got another great one in it.
It sounds like isotope, like something that would be in Doctor Who. Like it sounds like something I've heard before as well. Like,
are there any other comments people want to make about the show before we move to Player of the Week and our scores?
Look, just the fight sequence at the end where Avon actually punches her. Like you would never do that now.
You better get out of here. I really rather enjoyed that.
Unless it's like a big on action thing where she really is built up to be some sort of expert fighter, but the punch,
She does actually fight well, and I don't necessarily mind the punch because she was fighting him and he was defending himself, and she was dangerous. I do have problems with the comment.
Yeah, I thought it was weird that the two other guys were just sitting on the floor watching Avon fight a woman, just sitting there, like, get up and help him. I thought that was weird.
Yeah, but that's Pennant Robinson's direction.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
He doesn't do action, and that's the only action in the entire story. So it's interesting. I mean, so this isn't a fan favorite. I think I think as we discussed it, there's an awful lot of good things in it that we enjoy. But I don't think it's a fan favorite. It hasn't really got any action. That's the most action it has. It's not directed well. As you say, why the other two don't get up and grab her? But it's because it's not blocked them to get her yet, and because everyone has to get his punch in and say his line. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Exactly.
I do actually think, in terms of in the future, if you want to be equal and a woman and you're going to fight, then. But we will see Avon and women have some interesting relationships down the track. This is just this one of several times you sort of go bit uncomfortable, and I think I mentioned it before the fact that they didn't kill Sarah, but it's okay for her to be blown up, but you wouldn't shoot her. So Avon was allowed to shoot her. No one could. They all had guns, by the way. So she's fighting with a gun. She could have come out and they could have shot her, but no, they just have to disarm her and then they let her get blown up
Off screen.
So, yeah, off screen.
Off screen as well. Yeah.
So yes, there could have been a shot of her realizing she's about to die, but they don't do that. And part of the reason, I know Bob Holmes and Philip Hinchcliffe didn't have many women in Doctor Who was because their view was women shouldn't be killed. And so, killing a whole crew of men is okay. Killing women is a bit more shocking. It's why I think Adelaide's death in Horror Fang Rock is so effective, because it's actually a woman being killed. And it's such a rare thing in Doctor Who to see a woman being killed. And once again, we don't see women being killed here. They just do it offshot with a very bad graphic. I forget how did the new series do it? And the version, did you see an explosion in the...
It was on a screen. It was on the screen still.
Was it still just the bad graphic, or did they do something?
No, they had updated.
It had a graphic, but still a graphic.
It had a graphic. They'd upgraded it a little bit. Yeah.
Player of the week.
Actually, going to say the music. The music for me was the player of the week. Thought it was really clever how he just had sort of dings and noises when they just did certain things, even just turning on a light. I just thought it really helped with the storyline. So yeah, music for me.
It has to go to the costume designer for those big costumes.
Barbara Lane. So I think Barbara Lane's picked up costumes in the past as well, so she's doing well for herself.
Oh, I look forward to her next little outing.
I'm very disappointed you didn't ask me first, because Chris beat me to it. But my player of the week is Dudley Simpson, absolutely, with the music. Absolutely sensational. If that soundtrack could be available separately, I would just listen to that. It was wonderful.
Yeah, it was good.
I was also going to say Dudley Simpson, but as two of you said it now, I'm not going to do it. I'm actually going to go Paul Darrow. I do think, Paul Darrow got the opportunity to be his first lead, and he is just showing the fact that he can carry the show. Blake's not there, and you know what? I don't care. In fact, every time we go to The Liberator and Blake, I just want to get back to where Avon is, because he's with the funnies.
Yeah, his one-liners are great.
Are you awake?
No.
That's what I thought. It's very quiet here. If it should get noisy, I'll be in touch.
He stands out. Now, time to give our scores. Now, do we start with the best score or the worst score? Do we start with Todd and then get better, or do we all give our better scores?
With Todd.
Todd, what's your score?
Well, standard mine is 2, so it's probably, I don't know, 6 or 7.
What are you going to decide? 6 or 7?
6.
6. Okay, good. Actually, that's not as bad as I thought you were going to do.
No. There was stuff in there that I did like. I just found that it sort of ran out of steam.
Yeah. I do understand what you're saying. Chris?
Yeah, I'm going to say an 8 because it starts off good. The middle bit is a little bit boring, I have to admit, with the asteroid belt and everything. But overall, with the music and everything, yeah, I've given it an 8.
Yeah, I'm going to go 8 as well, because although the story was, didn't have a great deal of substance to it in many parts, but I enjoyed so many other aspects of it. It's kind of made up for the lacking story.
Yep. I'm going to give it a 7. So I think 7 is a nice average score. And I think in terms of the flow of the whole season, although I enjoyed it a lot more than I expected to enjoy it, and I really liked a lot of stuff that happened in it. I do think it's just a fairly average story in terms of it's not one I would choose to go put on. And I think there's a few reasons for that. The fact there's no Federation. I'd love the Federation stories. If they're all Federation stories, all Travis and Servalan stories, I would get bored of that. So we do need these side steps, I think, to maintain interest. But I must confess, that's where I want to be. And so I'm looking forward to next week and being back there again, because that's why those are the sort of stories I enjoy the most. So I'll give this a 7. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. It's been fun to do a murder mystery with you all. And next time we come together, we'll be dueling.
Yes, and I'm looking very much forward to Isla Blair, let me tell you.
Good. Well, we'll discuss more why that might be the case next time. So for now, good night, everyone. Good to see you.
See you later.
Bye for now.
See you soon.
Thanks for joining us on Blake 7 The Way Back with Todd Bilby, Chris Beer, Dwayne Bunny and Philip Edney. Original theme by Joe Kramer. Other music by Dudley Simpson. This episode, Mission to Destiny, was released in April 2026. It was recorded on the lands of the Wallumbilla, Wurundjeri, Kamakalaka and Jurag nations. Please like and subscribe and leave us a review or comment. And don't forget to send to your friends. Join us next time with episode 8, Duel, where we'll be joined by Sally Navette, Carol Royal and Stephen Greif.